going to give you guys a chance to settle in your seats and get your ice cold drinks or coffee ready. We've got Michele Cobb here today, and we're going to have a fabulous chat. We have some people here that I don't recognize, so I'm going to run over the quick rules of the game in case anybody's new to these calls. Please don't ask questions that we could Google anywhere. It bores me to death. I don't want to know the normal stuff, but quirky questions are always welcome. If you have questions, type in big caps the word question in the chat box before your question. If you don't do that, I'm going to assume you're chatting amongst yourselves. So draw my attention to it. I have lost Michele. Michele, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. Everybody, please, can you check and make sure that you are muted? Because if you're not muted, sometimes your picture will come up on the screen and it will kind of like take over. So everyone except Michele, please make sure you're muted, and we will get going. And type your questions in and I'll fit them in throughout the call and get ready for a fabulous evening. I had ulterior motives bringing Michele here tonight because you're like a grown-up. Your online persona is like a grown-up, like, you know, very important titles and heads of this company and you had quite a big job with the BBC, which I want to hear about as well. But you're also the person that lets us into the APA socials, and you're always smiling and always friendly, but always very professional. And I couldn't help thinking, gosh, I want to hear deep, dark secrets. I want to hear, you know, the weird things, the different things. And I'm going to scare her before the call. She'll suddenly disappear. But I want to hear, did you ever act or want to be a narrator? What was 10-year-old Michele planning on doing with her life?
So if you go back, I'm the oldest of 4 kids, right? And what I used to do every holiday and random times is do plays. And so I would sort of write and direct a play and force my siblings to be in it. And so lo and behold, I went to college. I'm from a family of science and math people, and all of my siblings are college professors. So the expectation was that I was going to get a science degree. And I was my mother's great hope to become a doctor, an actual, you know, like physician. And so I have a dual degree in theater and biology because I really liked directing plays and doing administrative stuff in college. And so I went on to get a degree in theater with an eye on being a theater director.
Okay, so I have a question about that.
Yes.
What was the dynamic there? Did you actually like biology, or was it, I'm going to do this to make them happy?
No, I definitely liked it. Yeah, I have a science and math brain in many ways. And I'm not sure that at that age, I thought, oh, I can get a degree in theater and like have a real job, because I didn't want to be an actor, but I wanted to be in the theater and I wanted to direct, right? And so I laugh every single day and give my parents a hard time. All the skills that I use on a daily basis are skills that are involved with theater, right? So directing plays, herding cats, same thing, you know. I went into sales and marketing. Of course, as a director, you study performance as well. So those are all skills I use, communication. And, you know, I was a weird kid in college. I did dances about DNA and things like that. So
what did you like about it? Like, what do you think the element, because, you know, it's a common thing. Oh, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be, I mean, I'm not lying. I was a kid. I wanted the attention. I wanted to wear sparkly things and get attention. What was it, what drew you to not wanting to act, but wanting to direct and be?
Because I like seeing things. On some level, I have a strategic mind. So I like seeing the placement of things and how things can work and how to achieve something as a group, and let's get it achieved. And that's really the director's job. Let's, you know, see all the things that we have to do, have a vision for how to get to that, and then consistently make it better. I'm also a Virgo. and, come from a very intense family. So
we should have started with the Virgo. It would have explained it all.
It does kind of explain it all.
So, okay. So you've got these two elements. They're going along fine. How long before you started with the BBC? Obviously, there was a long journey a bit in between, right?
There was. So I went to graduate school and then I went on the road and did some, your first year out of graduate school. What do you do? I worked at a children's theater, and then I toured with Missoula Children's Theater, directing plays. Now that is an awesome job for someone who is just out of school. Wow. So you go into a town, you cast 60 children in a play in 2 hours, you teach them the play throughout the course of 5 days, you perform the play on the 6th day, and then you drive to the next town. So it's a great way to see the world. By the time I was 30, I'd seen 48 states.
Wow.
The lower 48, and it took me 20 more years to get the other 2, but I did it. So I have all 50 states. So I did that for a while, and then I worked on a military base in Germany, working on a theater there. And that was great because I built sets, I directed plays, all those things and all those skills. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I tried to direct plays there. And what I found about theater in LA was everybody wants to be on TV. So people would hire me to direct a showcase, and the script would arrive and it would be 90 pages. And there's no need for a 90-page showcase. So I would cut it down to 30 and they would do what they did. And it just wasn't great for me. Yeah. But I also these are the small things in life. So my husband and I shared a car in LA, and he worked at an internet company, and I answered an ad to sell tickets at a company called LA Theater Works, which does plays in front of a live audience that are recorded, and then it's sold.
Where did you meet your husband when all this?
Oh, we went to college together, but we were not together in college. That's a whole World War I letter writing story where you just randomly decided to get married. And didn't see each other. Got married, decided to get married, got married within 1 week. I left and we didn't see each other for 7 months. And prior to that, we had not seen each other for 9 months. So
I think that makes it, I got deported, and I got to tell you, that makes it even more romantic because you're torn away from the love of your life and you don't know if you'll ever see them again. So then you're kind of really appreciative when they do really annoying things around the house, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So LA.
So I started selling tickets to live shows at LA Theater Works in the evenings. And then I worked at another theater in Malibu that had never had a professional staff person. It had been all volunteer. The Malibu job, I felt something was wrong there. So I left that job, but at LA Theater Works, they kept asking me to do one more thing. Oh, you're not an idiot. Could you pack tapes? You're, blah, blah, blah. So I went after quitting the job that day at LA Theater Works. I went in and I was visibly shaken by my quitting. It was ugly. But the managing director at the time was like, oh, well, do you just want to work here full time? I was like, oh, okay. So, and they didn't have anyone that was really paying attention to the audio side of things. So I spent 2 years there getting to know audiobooks. And
when is this? How long ago was this? This is
99.
Everything. Yeah.
This was 1999.
Yeah.
When everything was taking off. And then in 2000, I believe it was 2001, where I went to a buyer's conference with the APA. So I'd been to an APAC and started to get to know people a little, but nobody really knew who I was. But I went to a buyer's conference in Vegas, and they had a cocktail party. And at the cocktail party, they had a game, and you could win $300. And I, at the time, worked for LA Theater Works, and my husband had been working at an internet company, and he had just been let go in one of those internet downturns.
Oh, yeah.
So $300 in Caesar's chips was first prize. And I was like, ooh, look, that's almost half my rent. So everyone else got drinking, and I got to play in this game. Play Connect Four, spell a bunch of things, do this, do that. And one of the things that you had to do was tell a joke and sing a song. And let's just be clear, I am not a good singer. However, I thought it would be funny to sing a cappella a couple bars from I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor. And to my great chagrin, they picked 3 people to get up in front of the group and sing. And so they had 2 people give these really beautiful vocal performances, but I'm there representing LA Theater Works. So I'm like, I gotta go a little crazy. I gotta perform. So I took the microphone, I turned around, I gave myself a second, and then I whipped around and just sold it. Not with great singing. So not only did I win the song just for my performance, for my vocal ability, I won the whole thing. And in fact, no one else had really played. So I didn't even need to win the song. Like I basically kicked everyone else's asses in points.
And I got this like just energy and giving it from pure performance, but also like all the games you had to play, nobody was really playing. Everyone was drinking. I was going around and playing every game. So I won, all the points. I got the $300 worth of chips. I returned after the buyer's conference to LA Theater Works, and suddenly the phone started ringing. People that I didn't really know called and said, "Oh, hey, welcome to the audio industry. Would you like to volunteer for the APA?" Okay, I have a question here. This whole time, before that day that the phone started ringing, what was your direction? Because my experience in LA, maybe yours was different, was that everyone is like headed towards their dream. It didn't matter what the dream was, but everyone was very determined. And I always felt like I had to, oh my God, I better do something quick with my life. Like, did you have any goals or things that you were like trying to achieve, or just...
My initial goal was to be directing theater, but once I got into LA Theater Works and found this black hole where there was fantastic content and no one paying attention to how you sell audiobooks or what that experience was like, I just became solely focused. And having traveled thousands of miles in a car, what did I have experience listening to? Audiobooks. Yeah. So I was like, I just want to really get to know this industry. And again, as with everything in my life, like a lot of times people are like, "Oh, you did an okay job with that. Here's one more thing to do." So that's how, I just started doing one more thing at the APA, and suddenly everybody knows me. And then the BBC bought a company in the UK that had a US division, and I got hired by that company. And, it was the BBC Audiobooks America. And then I did one more thing and just did a little bit more on the board. And then they asked me to be president. So,
but do you think it's because of your attention to the process? Because it sounds like every single thing you're taking on, you're like, oh, there's a job to be done. I'm going to do this really well. And maybe that's why people, because the way you kind of say, oh, well, people just don't get lucky. But it sounds to me like they're attracted to the fact that you know your stuff, that you're focused.
I like to get things done. So, it might not always be perfection, but I do like to get things done. So if you want something done, I'm a person to call.
If you want. Oh, and that's funny because that brings us to our first question, which is something I said that I was going to ask you anyway as well. Because that old saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Kim Rossi wants to know, I think we all want to know, how in the world do you juggle everything? She said it in a much more polite way than I asked before the call. Seriously, you're like the head of 2 different companies. You have a family. How do you do all that?
Stubbornness. I don't know. No sleep. Virgo. Work is my hobby. That's what my husband always says. So I have the capacity to do a lot of hours of work because I've chosen this particular work and I really like it. And this community, especially the audiobook community, because I do work in podcasting, I do work in book publishing, the audiobook community in particular has always been such a giving and responsive community that I'm getting back so many things. And I really just enjoy what I do. So I'm not afraid to work long hours, but I also just really like it. And I really like the people that I'm interacting with. So I'm just very lucky.
Next time you're having lunch with Janet, could you kind of put an ear in her, a word in her ear about how much fun you had? And if she ever wants to come on, we'd love her to come. Because when you sit with someone, she was on the APA. I don't know what people think about the bubbles, but I had such a fabulous time. It was like happening into a dive bar, and running into people and just having a laugh.
Yes, well, she's less extroverted than I am, so I cannot guarantee you that she would agree, but you can definitely ask her.
Yeah.
She's been in the industry a long time, and she, just like me, knows where all the bodies are buried, and she's a great person to work with. So
she was hysterical. She was really funny. She was great.
Yes.
Yes, but sorry, back to the guest. So you do, but I want to find out about the podcast. How did that start while you're doing everything else? And tell me more about the podcast. And
Sure. So there's a couple of things in podcasting. I run an organization called the Podcast Academy, which was started in 2020. Mm-hmm. And that really generated out of Joanna Lasquez, who helps me run the APA. She and I were talking and we were like, it's weird that there's nothing equivalent for podcasting. So we started to talk to people that we knew, and it took us, I think, 2 years. But in the small world circumstance of me going out and trying to talk to people about what do we want to do for some kind of podcasting organization, I had worked with Wondery on a podcast for LA Theater Works way back when. And Hernan Lopez, who founded that, was at a Christmas party and was talking to someone about his idea about starting an academy. And the person he was talking to said, oh, hey, there's this woman called Michele Cobb. You should probably talk to her.
So and he was like, everything in your life just happens this way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all networking. So, he was like, wait, I know her. So he literally called me. I was in New York having dinner. And the day before, I had a conversation with someone saying, oh, as soon as the Christmas holidays are over, let's call Hernan. And he then called me the next day. A day after that, we were all on the phone together. That was right before Christmas 2019. We announced at Podcast Movement Evolutions on Valentine's Day 2020. And our first board meeting was in New York City on March 4th of 2020, right after the Audis. And away we go. So yeah, we do that now as well.
I love the way something I've got to say, because I know everyone wants to hug each other. I'm not a big hugger. If I'm famous for loving the whole Zoom world, but I love the way, and you genuinely always say, we don't want to risk anyone getting sick when it comes to in-person events. I love that there's that care underneath that, because as things have gone on and people have gotten upset and mad and annoyed with the whole thing, there's less of that because people are right, enough already. But I love that the underlying message has always been, we don't want to ever risk someone getting sick. And it comes from you. And I like that.
Yes. And well, guess what? As I sit here today, I was just diagnosed with COVID.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Wait. Are you okay to be on here?
I'm totally fine. See, in a Zoom world, I infect no one.
But are you feeling okay and everything?
I do feel fine. Honestly, I've had a little bit of congestion and, have been looking at the symptoms of COVID and saying, other than having some congestion, I have no other symptoms, so I'm fine. However, we are going to be doing some recording for the Audis in New York tomorrow. And I thought, well, the little congestion, I think before I get on a train to New York, I should take a rapid test. I would have to test when I get there, but I'm like, before I get on a train, let's just make 100% sure. So to my surprise, I tested positive for COVID, followed by my husband, followed by my daughter. So we all feel fine. And I think this is a testament to, we're all vaccinated and boosted. And I've had headaches that are worse than this. So I feel very good about what the medical community has done for us. Yeah. And it's just much like colds and flu. I've been saying for a long time, we're all going to get this at some point. And I'm happy that it's right now.
My husband and I are not going to leave our flat again until all of you have had it. And we're going to be those zombie movies. We're going to be out there kind of looking last one standing. Everyone says that. I am so terrified of the thing that I'm not going anywhere.
I have to say, I personally am relieved because for a number of reasons. First of all, I'm running an in-person conference the first week of February. So I was afraid like, I'm going to fly to Denver and like, maybe I pick it up in the airport and then I give it to someone there. Well, this is perfect. I will not be giving COVID to anyone there because I will be done with COVID and I will not catch again 1 week later. And my daughter's school, which has not had virtual, they're having virtual until the end of the month and she can go back at the end of the month. So if you're going to thread the needle, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
So again, I guess I'm a bit lucky.
Yeah. Well, I hope you feel better, and lots of like trash TV and junk food and, the proper cures.
Oh yeah. My husband and I we're very practical. It was like, oh, we tested positive for COVID. What next? Oh, let's go back to work. We both work from home. So it's very easy to, and then it's like, well, where do we get it? Well, we go to the grocery store, it is what it is. And I'm truly relieved that we can keep ourselves safe, keep everyone else safe, and have this be so mild.
Okay. So now I want to delve deeper, because how do you do it all? I'm thinking, but how do you literally, are you a schedule person? Are you I've got an app on my phone? Are you I take a break every 52 minutes and breathe? What are your kind of hacks, and have they changed over your life? Like, what have you learned that you wish you could have known earlier because you have to have learned a lot about organization traveling around the world like that, obviously.
Yes, I would say, what I've learned is that I'm a fairly organized person, and I'm very, again, lucky because I have a very good memory. So I am able to sometimes, it's not as good as it was when I was 30, but I can go, oh, wait a minute. What is that thing that cascades down to this other thing that I forgot to do? Or there's some question and we didn't do something one way. Why do we not do it this way? I can think back and find that.
Wow.
So I think, being organized, having a good memory helps. And I work with a team of people. I have a business partner. I have, a team that works on the Podcast Academy, and a team that works on PubWest, and a team that works on audio publishers. And it's a slightly different team.
Yeah.
So, I'm not alone in what I'm doing. And again, I feel great that I have a capacity to be able to do a lot of work. So I don't mind working late into the evening. And, I'm a list person, not a schedule person.
Okay.
So I like to make a list, and I feel a lot of satisfaction from completing all the tasks.
Crossing it off.
Yeah. I think where the sadness I have nowadays is that 10 years ago, at the end of the evening, my inbox would be clean and everything would be handled. Not so much when you're getting 300 to 500 emails a day.
Yeah, I've never actually cleaned anything out of my inbox, which is really embarrassing at this point. Like if Hotmail ever dies, I'm in trouble. I mean, I answer things immediately, but I just, so what would you, because I am thinking back to when I was in LA, like in my 20s. And funny, when you were in 1999,
yep,
when you were heading the whole audiobook thing, I can guarantee because I was obsessed with walking around LA. I think I was the only person. People would roll their windows up when they saw someone walking at the time. I was listening to Agatha Raisin audiobooks on cassette on a Walkman, walking down the street to work in LA in 1999.
Well, I would have passed you in my car listening to LA Theater Works, because we don't walk in LA.
So, but thinking that way, what lessons? Oh my God, I could tell that girl so many things about life. What would you tell yourself about life that you kind of now know that you wish you'd known then?
Well, I ended up going out on my own in 2013 through a series of interesting events. And I wish I had known at the time that I was capable of doing it. I grew up in a family where it's like, you have to have a job and you have to have health insurance and all of these other things. And so I was always afraid to kind of break out and do stuff on my own. And when I did it, I was like, duh, why didn't I do this 2 years ago, or 5 years ago? So I wish I could tell myself that. And I just think,
what do you mean go out on your own? Create a business on your own, or
create a business on my own? So
was it as easy as you thought it would be? Easier, harder?
Well, I left. BBC was acquired. BBC Audiobooks America was acquired by a investment group in the UK, and we were briefly called Audio Go, and we actually bought Blackstone and some other companies, and we're like Audio Go was forming this new entity, but it wasn't really working for me at that time. So in the transition between the businesses, I was out in Ashland with the Blackstone people, who are lovely. And the transition coordinator guy, who was not from either company, had lunch with me. And he's like, "Are you okay? You seem not okay. Are you thinking of quitting?" And I was like, "What?" Because it's very stressful. Like I had to, as part of letting a lot of people who worked in Rhode Island, their jobs were not there anymore. And that really psychologically took me down, having to be part of letting people go. It was literally killing me. Yeah. And so, he said that to me at lunch, and I went back to the hotel and I called my husband and I said, "This guy said the funniest thing to me." He was like, "Are you thinking of quitting?" And my husband said, "So?" And I said, "Do you think I can quit?" He was like,
"Yes, you hadn't even thought of it before."
I hadn't thought of it before.
Isn't
because
it funny how, because I did that in a job. Everyone in the whole world could see how miserable I was. I was like getting sick, but I never even thought it was a possibility because I thought it was my responsibility. That's the oldest child syndrome.
Yes. And I'd broken out in hives, on the plane to Ashland, I had broken out in hives, but it never occurred to me. So I quit, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. And, I'm the breadwinner in the family. So I panicked, and I went to a recruiter, and they got a job offer to sell printer ink and labels at a custom printing company. It's very interesting. In fact, Findaway was a customer. So it was like, I'm not escaping audio. And at the time I was, the volunteer position at the APA as president. So I was president of the APA, and I had left the industry. Yeah. And right around the time that I left, they had the summer board meeting. And so they all got together and I said, "Why don't you have the board meeting without me? Because I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. I didn't know yet what I was going to be doing. So I'm not sure if I should be president." So they had the meeting without me, and they were like, "Yeah, you can't leave. You can't not be president. You might get a job in audio." Then I went on to get a job in this other industry. And it was not for me. It's a manufacturing industry. I'd never been called certain, disrespectful female names before. They hadn't really had a woman in any kind of management position before. So it was not for me. But at the same time, all these companies were calling me and saying "Well, what do you want to do? I've got this little project." So I think I only worked there 4 months, but I would work all day, go home, do a little project. And I finally realized if I stopped working during the day and just focused on trying to get more little projects, I could probably make my own consulting company.
I'm glad you realized that, because those jobs, and we've all had, I think a lot of us have had those jobs where you're doing 3 times the amount of work, you're managing people, you're taking all the responsibility, you go into the meeting, you know exactly what's going on by just looking at their faces. You could end the meeting in 5 minutes yourself and make all the decisions. And every man in the room expects you to run off and get the cup of tea for everyone.
Yeah. I did not appreciate being called a chick. In fact, I have a little chick on my bookshelf that I had lunch with someone one day and was telling them the story, and he brought me a chick soon after that. He was like, "Here you go, you should have this." He didn't work at the company, but I told him the story.
It's rare these days, but it's still there. It's still there in some companies these days. People just hide it better.
Well, this company wasn't hiding it. And, the crazy thing was but I just didn't let it go. I would say to someone, that's just not appropriate for 2013.
Did you?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So they didn't, I'm not sure. I'm sure that many of them were happy to see me go, because I was not willing to let it go when a whole room full of women were called chicks. I'm like, not. And go into the lunchroom, and there's a list of names that you're not supposed to use. Chicks is there.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Okay. So you got out of there.
Fast.
You took on little projects and you built them.
I did. Yeah.
Do you know, I love that. That's the freelance. I didn't know you could do that. I wish someone had told me that. Doing the audiobooks and we had talked, I'm going to bring up the thing that I said, oh God, I hope nobody brings this up. But with all the scarcity in some of the Facebook groups, and there's never going to be any more audiobooks. But my mind, because I've been doing this now like 5, 6, 7 years, I can't remember. My mind is automatically, we're surrounded by, do you not find, other freelancers starting their own businesses, creating, and my mind is going, ooh, okay, now I could do this and I could do that and I could do that. Whereas old corporate struggling me would have been like, oh God, they're going to take something away from me. But I think we're surrounded by this, we all say this community, but it's people that have had the guts to chase their dreams. And if you're surrounded by those people, you do what you said. I'm going to take little bits of things I love and make them mine.
And now I'm an entrepreneur pusher. Like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. And I've done it a lot where someone comes and they've either lost a job or they're unhappy in a job or they're thinking about trying something new. And I'm a big one for like, yeah, let's go out on your own. Here are the things you need.
I love
you
that.
can do it.
And do you know that every person you do that for, because a few people, one person, I'm going to call attention to him. He won't thank me for it. Colin is on this call right now. Colin literally saved my life because I was in the corporate job being bullied. And I don't know if he'll even remember this, but he's the British Actors Network. And it's like got thousands and thousands of people in the group, thousands of actors. And the boss had told me that everyone was looking at me and talking about me and everyone hated me and I was inappropriate. And I went in the other room and it was just like over the top. And I put on that group. What am I going to do? I'm standing here shaking and I can't leave this job. And Colin reached out. I think out of like 14,000 something people in that group, like thousands immediately posted something, fellow actors, they, don't kill your spirit. But he reached out. And what you're saying, you're an entrepreneur pusher. It's people like you that can make the difference between somebody collapsing into where they are or having the courage to go somewhere else. And Colin, I'm embarrassing him, but Colin did that for me. You were the one person that I remember that made the difference when I could have collapsed at a horrible time. And think of how many people you've probably done that for, Michele.
I hope so. I hope so. But great job, Colin. That's the way to do it. We all have to support each other.
Yeah. And never say you can't do it or, stay where you are. I think give people how they say new people, they say, well, don't give them false hope. They might not be any good. Give them false hope. Let them decide on their own. Let them crash if they want. But you know what I mean? I think we could use a little bit more false hope.
Well, for me, I'm so practical that I'm always like, here are the things you need to do. Here are the pitfalls. Like, I'm going to tell you the good with the bad. But I do think that most people, if they are doing what they love, can actually make a success from it.
When did you realize? So you realized that you could take on little bits of things you love. When did you realize that you could do it really well and that this could be something you've got control? How long did it take for you to get there?
Well, I guess I was just so sort of, taken aback by the job that it just pushed me to say, wait, this is silly. I come from sales and marketing, so I can find other work. And I think that's what being in an industry or being in a situation that I was uncomfortable in, pushed me to make that change. And I think a lot of people end up in situations that they're uncomfortable with and don't necessarily leave that situation. So I say, be healthy, personally healthy, and leave this situation.
And one of the people that you helped, as I've said, we were sure that you've done a call-in for other people, Mia. A big thank you in caps to Michele from me for sure. So do you know what I mean? I don't think people realize how many people they change and they touch by, kindness and help and a hand up. I think it's amazing. Okay, so
thank you, Mia.
So, I know, thank you, Mia. And okay, so you've taken on the bitch, you've become strong, you're feeling in control, you've got this, you're doing the APA. What? Oh, we've got a quirky question already. So before I answer my question, I'm going to hit you with one. And this is Barbara. I did warn you about Barbara. I said, Barbara's going to get you some questions you won't know. Okay, she's the queen. Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph? If yes, who, and what was the situation?
I have. One of my siblings is very much into Star Trek. And so I have asked Brent Spiner and a couple other people. I've gotten her autographs or selfies, like with LeVar Burton. I got a selfie, in this day and age. But yeah, I have no problem asking people for their autograph. I've never done it for myself, but there was one autograph that I really wanted, which was Laurie Anderson. And she came to perform at the college I was at, and my roommate was on the crew. So I did ask her to get Laurie Anderson's autograph, which she did. She said to Laurie Anderson, my roommate worships you. Can I get your autograph? And she said, yes, but tell her not to worship me. It's like, that's cool.
So what about audiobooks? What do you, I hate these kind of questions, but I can't, for some reason, I'm dying to ask you this because everyone gets asked this and it's like a pat question, but I'm dying to find out, what audiobook did you find like the most touching that you just love with all your heart that you can't forget?
Jose Saramago's Blindness, read by Jonathan Davis. It is by far my favorite audiobook. I was like mad when it was over. I kept listening to it in like 15-minute chunks so it wouldn't end. There's literally no punctuation in the book itself, and he brought that to it. It's beautifully written, beautifully narrated. It's just one of my favorites. And then they made a not very great movie out of it.
Blindness. It's called
Blindness. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Oh, I like that. Okay. What kind of books do you listen to? What's your genre that you prefer?
I'm kind of all over the place. Part of what I get to do on Behind the Mic with Audiophile Magazine is I get to guest once a month. So I listen to 5 audiobooks every month and talk about them over the course of a week on Behind the Mic. And I've always liked mysteries, thrillers, blood, guts. That's right up my alley. But they also give me a lot of the celebrity biographies because I'm willing to do those. And yeah, and then there's like, sometimes I like just something random, good literary fiction.
Yeah, that's kind of like me, especially the blood and guts bit. Kim wants to know what audiobook surprised you.
What audiobook surprised
me? That's a hard
one.
I don't think I've ever been surprised by one.
I have recently. I listened to Will by Will Smith, and I could not believe the thing was 17 hours long. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to want to listen to 17 hours of Will Smith.
Was it motivating? Did he talk about the treadmill?
No, this is what surprised me about it. It was bizarrely relatable because we have nothing in common, but he is on a journey of self-discovery, which I think most people are on. And so that's why I was just like, I really like going on his journey at the same time as being able to relate it to my own journey in many ways. And so that's why it just shocked me. I expected him to read his own audiobook well. I didn't expect to be into it.
I love that. I never forget when he's got this thing he says. And maybe he doesn't say it anymore. Maybe he's evolved, but it's always stuck in my mind because it's my personality as well. He's like, if I get on a treadmill and you get on a treadmill, I might not be any better on the treadmill than you are, but I'm not getting off that treadmill until either you or I die. So, and that's like a bad.
I share that with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And it evidently, according to all the memes and Elephant Journal and all the received wisdom these days, is not a plus. It's like a workaholic kind of thing, but it's kind of strangely, I'm really proud of my work ethic.
Yeah. I mean, I've said in this event, like I have the capacity to do a lot of work. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I was reading a thing the other day, because you do feel bad. Like I feel like I should be like meditating and enjoying the moment and not always be wanting to like achieve and get stuff and get more. But and this article was like, yeah, somebody had hired Heather Havrlowski to write an article, which is one of my favorite writers, to write an article telling women that they should, you don't need so much, take long walks and smell the flowers. And I hear that all the time and beat myself up because I really just want to work. I know I have to take days off, but
Right.
only so that I don't get sick so that I can work.
Well, I'm a goal person. That's just the way I work. So even like I have a Fitbit, right? And I have a crazy goal. I have a 7 miles of steps per day goal, which when you work at home, is really hard. So
like how, like 10,000 steps? How much is 7 miles?
16,000.
Working from home? Do you leave the house then and walk?
Yeah, and I don't achieve it every day by any stretch, but I've been in a lot of Fitbit contests. I love that because that just makes me really do it, right? And I can't just like go out for a quiet walk. It's like I'm going to go out for a walk and it's going to be 7,000 steps, and at the end of the day I might have to do another 7,000. I just like those stupid goals. I once took 6 months of aerobics classes to get a t-shirt. That's me. Just give me a t-shirt at the end.
You got the t-shirt, right?
I got the t-shirt. Never took another aerobics class.
I like that. I do like that. I think, yeah, that's very much. I was thinking the other night, there's 24 hours in a day. And if I'm only sleeping 8 and I'm adding up, okay, and I'm doing this and this and this, where the hell are those extra hours? Somebody's cheating me, because life takes all this time out of like your set hours, and it's really annoying. Okay, we have another question, another quirky question. What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, well, that's easy. I was attending the Frankfurt Book Fair must have been 2019. And I always take the train into the center of Frankfurt and stay at a couple of different hotels. And there's one hotel that's next to this amazing crepe place. So that's my favorite place to stay, but sometimes it's way too expensive.
Crepe place?
But crepes, yes.
Crepe. Okay, sorry.
So, and you have to walk through the red light district to get to the hotel, which I've never had a problem. I can walk through red light district. People are happy to see me. It's fine. Well, in 2019, the area had gotten a little rougher. And a lot of instead of walking directly through the red light district, I walked down a different road. And there were a lot of kind of transient hotels there, and a lot of people sitting outside these transient hotels. And there was a woman in a wheelchair who grabbed my bags and tried to wrestle my bag out of my hand. And I had, 2 shoulder bags. I travel light. So I had 2 shoulder bags, which were held on my arms, luckily. Wow. And I held on to them, but she was trying to knock me over. And I wrestled away and, continued, but I was so discombobulated. It took me like 45 minutes to find the hotel, which was within 5 minutes of walking.
Wait, she was still sitting in the wheelchair grabbing at you? She didn't get up?
Yeah, she had a glass bottle in one hand, and she was grabbing at me with the other hand.
And the glass bottle could be a problem because in Scotland, they use those to... You don't want to get in a fight with someone with a glass bottle.
Yes, but I was like, I'm holding onto my bags. Like, what are you doing? And I'm wrestling away.
Wow.
And that was scary. And I went back to Frankfurt in 2021. So 2 years later, and I did, when I was walking around at night, I was like, I go this path, which is the main road only. And I did feel nervous in a way that I've never felt walking around before. So that was scary.
That is scary, because especially when you're in a different country. I don't know. There's something about being in a different country. You feel, I mean, you've traveled a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't the country that bothered me. It was just like, I'm going to avoid that area. And I was not the only one that year. I heard from several other people that they had incidences, and,
Yeah, I wonder what it's like now. I mean, I hear that things, because the neighborhood I used to work in
now.
LA by Hancock Park, a girl just got killed working in a furniture store, right? When I used to walk around there, and, you know, you take a job there, you would feel safe on La Brea. It's Hancock Park. It's old Hollywood. But La Brea, I've been gone a long time. Evidently, it's changed.
a lot of things in the world, especially in the past 2 years, I think have changed. But you know, I like to think that she didn't mean me any real harm, just wanted something that I had. So
yeah, well, that's a good question, Barbara. Thank you very much. She never lets us down. Okay, so what about AI?
My favorite topic, of course.
And this is not you guys, just a friendly reminder, I'm not interviewing the APA or a company. I'm interviewing Michele Cobb herself. So so with that in mind, just because it's the question.
Sure. You know, I would say it must have been, it was like late October, early November when the Publishers Weekly article came out. I saw it come out on a Friday. I drank a bottle of wine and I steeled myself for what I was sure would be an emotional reaction to the article, which indeed it was. Yeah. And I have to say, that was probably the next like 3 weeks were probably the hardest 3 weeks I've had in my career, because there was an expectation that the APA would do something specific and that I am the APA. So there were a lot of, you know, personal things that were said to me or about me that really bothered me and sort of took me down.
See, I've got to say that shocks me. That until you mentioned that at the beginning of the call, I was like, because we're a friendly community.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I think that's why it hurts so much, because people were saying like, you know, I would not expect this of you. You've always been supportive, but now you are against me. It's like, but I'm not against you. I am representing an organization that is, you know, inclusive in many different ways. And I've also lived through more than 20 years in this industry and all sorts of technologies. When digital audiobooks came in, it was a very similar hullabaloo from a different constituency. And also, I'm a small audio publisher myself. So when I'm thinking about what this means for the market, I'm thinking like, will this change the rights that I'm going to be able to obtain? So, you know, this potentially affects me as well. But I understand it is super scary. It's super scary to think that a machine could come take your job. Do I believe that machines are going to come take all of our jobs? I don't believe that. I personally believe that there will be titles recorded by AI and there will be titles recorded by humans. And I have a lot of faith in that. So I am less scared, but I am empathetic to the fear. I was just personally really destroyed by how much it felt that the attacks were towards me as a human being or towards an organization that is so supportive of them. All of the audio publishers are the ones who are in the organization. These are the people in the companies that are going to be hiring voice talent for the longest, because that's what they do. And all of their jobs are potentially affected, but they also believe in performance and all of that. So I think that this is going to be an area in which we're, you know, technology and human performance are living together. I just ask that we all be nice to each other as we figure this out.
You just made me think of something, because you just made me realize something in human nature that I conveniently forgot. I managed a large team at a corporate company, and I literally daily put myself on the line in defense of them, because they were an overlooked team. They were secretaries. Nobody cared. Like, right. If the boss literally said, when are they going to retire? They're old. Aren't we going to get rid of them soon? So I spent every single day defending them and putting myself on the line, and just, it was the most stressful time of my life. And they were talking about me all behind my back. And I thought, well, that's fine. You know, it's my job. I've got to be professional. But they would like throw me under the bus in front of the boss to like really throw me under the bus, like in just nasty ways. And a friend said to me when I was like, I don't understand. Can they not see that I'm literally killing myself here trying to like help them? And my friend said, you're the boss. That's what you do. It's always the boss's fault. It's if you're in the position of the person that represents something or that they look to, that's what it is. You're all and you're responsible. They get in a bad mood, it's your fault.
Right. And I mean, I don't want anyone to feel fearful. And, you know, it took me a few weeks to just stop saying I have to take this on myself. Right. So I know that the response is not about me, but I was taking it on initially as if it was about me and taking
child syndrome
as the oldest child. But, you know, there were when I finally started to stand up and say, I understand that you're afraid, but you are hurting my feelings. And I did say this to several people, you know, you're hurting my feelings because you are essentially putting words in my mouth or assuming that I have a particular belief that I don't. So the minute I started to do that and just take a little agency, it all resolved for me.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay, good. Yeah. It's a strange thing about people. And also, doesn't it go down to the whole social media thing? Not about this subject, but about everything.
Every subject. It's like,
I said something innocent, completely innocent. I swear I had no idea, but I accidentally stepped in the middle of something people were being dramatic about. And next thing you know, it's like a minefield sometimes. But what it is because it's not personal. But then if you probably say to the person, you're hurting my feelings, there's not one person I can think of that would want to hurt someone else's feelings. But, exactly. You know, I mean, in our community, I mean, on Facebook, social media is a whole different matter. But I mean, in our community, I think each person is genuinely, but people get carried away with the,
yeah, and when we changed the Audis to be separate from APAC, there was a very similar response.
Why?
Because it means 2 trips to New York. It means other things. Okay. But I think the response was like, you're doing this. The response I got was, you're doing this to hurt us. And that was never the intent. The intent was always to, let's increase the visibility of the Audis. And here's the way that we're going to do that. Yes, it separates the Audis and APAC, but, you know, the intent was no one sitting around a board meeting going, you know what we're going to do today to screw voice talent? No. What we're thinking about is how can we strategically move the industry forward and get more visibility? And that was the step that we took. So it was a similar response to that, but it just got more personal. And anyway, we've moved on from that. I think, you know, we're going to be exploring as an industry all these different technology tools, just as we did when we stopped using printed books.
Okay, can I just say here, did no one else, okay, this really bugs me. It's a pet peeve of mine. Did no one else watch the Jetsons? Does no one else get how cool Zoom is? This is the Jetsons. I never thought in my lifetime we would have actual TV. We get to see people that we're talking to on the phone. I mean, we forget that part. You forget the whole, and maybe it's you hear what you said, that you worked through it after, you know, for a few weeks. It was hard. And then you stepped up and I had to check myself the other day. I actually said to someone, to a friend on Facebook the other day, that I might need to step off Facebook because I'm finding myself scrolling, like getting angry and getting like annoyed at things. So why do I do that? They're all my lovely friends on social media. But then I posted something about the 3 little pigs and all that was forgotten. But the social media is like,
we can get whipped up really easily.
Yeah, the algorithms. And I think we all think we're immune. We all think that we're immune. We need to kind of check ourselves sometimes, like you said you did with, and it's not personal. It's personal in the nicest way. But let's still be nice to each other,
Yeah.
play well with others.
And let's figure it out together. Let's all figure it out together, because we all still want to make wonderful audiobooks.
And go in the bubbles. I can't wait. I had so much fun in those bubbles. I'm afraid I missed most of the speeches. I will promise to pay attention this year. It's just the bubbles. There was total FOMO, because if you went into one of the speeches, there was always some really cool gang hanging out in a bubble somewhere.
Okay, we record most of the speeches, so you can, watch those in the replay, as it were.
Yeah. I definitely, and I didn't actually, because I was so busy, because I never got any recording done, because I was in the bubbles the entire time, that I missed the speeches. After this year, I'm going to be very professional about the whole thing. Approach it in a logical, because I know people that go to APAC, and when it was in person, and they would draw up lists of all the publishers. I've heard this from several people, and they'd get like photos of them and backgrounds, and which is why I'm secretly glad it's not in person, because I can like barely remember my own name half the time. But they made a science of it. Like, they got a lot from it.
It's so big. The organization is so big now. I used to be able to know everybody by name. The Zoom bubbles help, because we all have our names, by face. We all have our names written down now.
Do you think it'll ever go back to in person?
I do. I mean, I'm running an in-person conference in 2 weeks in Denver. It's, much smaller than the APA conference. But I think we're going to see more of like one in person, one digital, that sort of thing, because It's so equalizing to be able to do a digital conference. You can have so many more people there.
You only have to dress from the waist up.
It's true. And it's a lot less expensive, right? Yeah. And the other thing is, we joke because I have COVID, but we used to all go to these conferences, and then I did a lot of traveling, so I would tend not to get sick after going to every conference. But many of you who spend all day and night in a booth and then come out for the conference, you would come back with a cold or an illness from the conference. And, I don't know, not having that as well is, I think, a positive thing.
Okay, now I've got a question that I hit all my guests with at the end of the call.
Okay. Got it.
In school, they never did this in my school, so I make you guys pay for it now for every call. They dig a hole and they put those boxes in, time lock boxes, and everyone puts things in that they would want dug up. So what would you put in the box for the YouTube viewers that are going to be seeing this in 60 years? What would you like to leave them with? Words of wisdom, a funny joke, anything you want that you would put in that time lock. What is the name of the box? A vault? A box? There's a name. I need to look that up.
Yeah, it's totally missing what the name is. But...
So what would you put in yours?
Time capsule.
Time capsule. Yes. Thank you, guys. They've always got our back.
So what would I put in the vault?
Yes. What would you put in the time capsule?
In the time capsule, words of wisdom.
Yes.
I would say, have trust in yourself and do whatever you want to do. Follow your gut.
I love that. I do like that. Yes. Very good words of wisdom. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining the call. This was delightful. And I'm so sorry that you've got COVID. I hope you're feeling better very, very soon.
I mean, I feel fine. So
amazing for someone.
If you're going to have COVID, this is the way to do it.
I always think of people with COVID like...
I think everyone deals with it differently, and I'm lucky to be vaccinated and boosted and have a, Omicron, which is much milder. So I'll just count my blessings and,
well, I hope
be out of quarantine soon.
Yes, and feel better soon, and we'll see you at APAC.
Yes. See you at APAC. And get all your stuff in by January 28th.
Oh, what stuff?
Speed dating and meet the producers. All that stuff in by January 28th, please.
Oh, wait. Is there stuff for Meet the Producers?
You have to fill out a survey, yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. As she runs off to do I knew I'd forgotten something.
So step one, register. Step two, choose speed dating or Meet the Producers. And if you didn't on the first round, make sure that you go back in and do it. And step three, follow the instructions in your confirmation email.
Yes. the step 3 I'd missed. I meant to do that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, everyone. Nice to see you.
Have a good night. Bye, Michelle. Feel better soon. Thanks,
Bye,
guys. Thanks for joining.